Okay. In last lecture what we have completed was about cardiac cycle and how this cardiac cycle works. In next lecture, that is lecture number 11, we will see the conducting system of hearts. As you know, the human heart is myogenic, that is heart is capable of generating the cardiac contraction independent of nervous input. That means there is no nervous input in conducting system of the heart. It is totally depends upon the muscular system, or you can say muscles of the heart. It also shows rhythmicity. Why it is rhythmicity? That it can generate its own rhythm by specialized muscles, and these specialized muscles are called as nodal tissues. And this nodal tissue is the nodal tissue is nothing but it is present on the right upper corner, here, the right upper corner. And this nodal tissue is nothing but it is known as SA node, or you can say sinoatrial node, or you can say short form it is SA node. It lies at the base of opening of superior vena cava. It lies at the opening of superior vena cava. Another mass of nodal tissue, the modified muscular fibers, are also called as orthorhythmic fiber, that is conducting fibers, are also present here. So these node, or you can say this structure, is known as AV node, arterioventricular node. It is known as arterioventricular node, which is present at the base of opening of these two walls, or you can say at the junction where atria opens into the left right ventricle. So there are two nodal tissues. The first one is known as SA node and the second one is known as AV node. So SA node is present on the right atrium. It acts as pacemaker. Of heart, because it has the power of generating new wave of contraction. It has the capacity of generating the new wave for the contraction and making the pace of contraction. So it is having a property that generates 70 to 80 impulse per minute, or you can say atria contract, atrium जहाँ पर contract होता है. So sinoauricular node is responsible for generation of 70 to 80 impulses for atrium contraction. Okay, SA node passes the contraction to the left ventricle and also for the AV node. So here SA node passes the impulse, and this impulse travels through the different internodal path, and from SA node, from here it reaches the AV node. Okay, ठीक है. यहाँ पर AV node के पास, when the impulse reaches the AV node, that is 0.1 second at the AV node, so there is no ventricles, so ventricles have time to fill. इसका मतलब ये होता है कि जब AC node से AV node की तरफ impulse आएगा, उस वक्त तक ये ventricle fill होते रहेगा blood से. ओके, ठीक है. तो arterioventricular node, or you can say arterioventricular bundle, which connects the atria to the ventricle. So this is a bundle, arterioventricular bundle, okay, which connects atria and the ventricle. So AV bundle branches conducts the impulse. The AV bundle branches conducts the impulse through the interventricular septum. Here it is interventricular septum, and from this interventricular septum you will see there is a branching of these bundles. The one branch goes into the left side and the second branch goes into the right side of your heart muscles. So these are the fibers. These are the fibers. These fibers are known as Purkinje fibers. And these fibers are responsible for contraction of the ventricle. How it is responsible? SA node passes the impulse to the AV node. AV nodes transfer its impulse to the arterioventricular bundle, and from arterioventricular bundle it goes up to the Purkinje fiber, and which is deep into the heart muscles, and these fibers are responsible for rhythmic contraction of the ventricle. So this is how the conduction system of heart works. For that, I am showing you a video. Please see carefully. Okay.
Conducting system of the heart. Components. The conducting system of the heart is made up of specialized cardiac muscle fibers and is responsible for initiation and conduction of cardiac impulse. The conducting system of the heart consists of the following 5 components: sinoatrial node, atrioventricular node, atrioventricular bundle, right and left branches of bundle of His, subendocardial Purkinje fibers. Sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node is also known as node of Keith-Flack. It is a small horseshoe-shaped mass having specialized myocardial fibers situated in the wall of the right atrium in the upper part of sulcus terminalis, just below the opening of the superior vena cava. It is known as pacemaker of the heart because it generates impulses about 70 per minute and initiates the contraction of cardiac muscle producing a heartbeat. Atrioventricular node is also known as node of Tauera. It is smaller than the SA node and is located in the lower part of the atrial septum, just above the attachment of septal cusp of the tricuspid valve or opening of the coronary sinus. It conducts the cardiac impulse to the ventricle by the atrioventricular bundle. The AV node is capable of generating impulses at a rate of about 60 per minute. The speed of conduction of cardiac impulse, which is about 0.11 seconds, provides sufficient time to the atria to empty their blood into the ventricle before ventricles start contracting. Atrioventricular bundle. It begins from the AV node, crosses the AV ring, and runs along the inferior part of the membranous part of the interventricular septum, where it divides into the left and right branches. Since the skeleton, which is a fibrous framework of the heart, separates the muscles of atria from the muscles of the ventricles, the bundle of His is the only means of conducting impulses from the atria to the ventricles. Right and left branches of the bundle of His. The right branch passes down to the right side of the interventricular septum and then becomes subendocardial on the right side of the septum. A large part of it continues in the septomarginal trabeculum to reach the anterior papillary muscle and anterior wall of the ventricle. Its Purkinje fibers then spread out beneath the endocardium. The left branch descends on the left side of the ventricular septum, divides into Purkinje fibers which are distributed to the septum and left ventricle. Purkinje fibers. They are the terminal branches of the right and left branches of the bundle of His and spread subendocardially over the septum and the rest of the ventricular wall. The conducting system and mode of contraction of cardiac muscle is summarized as follows. The SA node, a spontaneous source of cardiac impulse, initiates an impulse which rapidly spreads to the muscles of the atria, making them contract. The AV node picks up the cardiac impulse from atria and conducts it through the atrioventricular bundle and its branches to the papillary muscles and the walls of the ventricles. The papillary muscles contract first to tighten the chordae tendineae, and then the contraction of the ventricular muscle occurs. Arterial supply of the conducting system. The whole of the conducting system of the heart is supplied by the right coronary artery except a part of the left branch of the AV bundle which is supplied by the left coronary artery. Clinical correlation. Conducting system defects. The defect or damage of conducting system causes cardiac arrhythmias. The SA node is the spontaneous source of generation of cardiac impulses. The AV node picks up these impulses from atria and sends them to the ventricles through AV bundle, the only means through which impulses can spread from the atria to ventricles. If the AV bundle fails to conduct normal impulses, there is alteration in the rhythmic contraction of the ventricle, which is known as arrhythmias. If complete bundle block occurs, there is complete dissociation in the rate of contraction of atria and ventricles. The commonest cause of defective conduction through AV bundle is atherosclerosis of coronary arteries, which leads to diminished blood supply to the conducting system. An important point to be noted here is that rapid pulse is called tachycardia. The slow pulse is called bradycardia, whereas irregular pulse is called arrhythmia.
Okay, so this was the conducting system of heart. From next lecture we will see our next topic, that is electrocardiogram, how the electrical activity of heart is recorded, that is in form of ECG, or you can say electrocardiogram.